National Aeronautics and Space Administration is in total chaos. Everything that the Interstellar Object 3 and Atlas weren't supposed to do after passing behind the sun, they did. Let me tell you, we all know that there's a dispute in the scientific world regarding the words of the respected Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who initially proposed that the Interstellar Object 3 and Atlas could be an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Because it came from another solar system? Because of its extremely fast speed, its incredibly coincidental alignment with the planets, its composition different from any other known comet, and because it was hiding behind the sun. Right. When the Earth passed in front of it and no telescope could see it, subscribe. This scared everyone. Because like this, hidden behind our star, it would be the ideal place to make a speed change and a trajectory change. To attack us? Loeb said it bluntly. We can't rule out that it's a colossal alien ship, because that's exactly what an intelligent civilization would do to surprise us, hide, and then attack. Part of the scientific community, especially the experts at National Aeronautics and Space Administration, laughed at Loeb. But let's remember that the Harvard astrophysicist may be controversial, but he knows better than anyone how to do his research work according to the most rigorous scientific standards, and he has backed up all his statements with accurate numbers and proper documentation. And indisputable. That's why, to National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and the other experts who came out and said it was just a natural comet had no choice but to admit that it was impossible to say so with 100% certainty. So, is the possibility that it's a hostile alien ship real and mathematically greater than 1? They were forced to activate the Planetary Defense Protocol, and every damn super powerful telescope on the planet was pointed at the 3I Atlas. But just a few days ago, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration astronomers who were mocking said arrogantly, the whole theory from Loeb and Harvard, they will fall apart as soon as we see 3I Atlas again, after it comes out from behind the sun and approaches us. Because if it's an extraterrestrial ship, as he himself said, it should show signs of anti-gravitational acceleration and a change in trajectory. Which is never going to happen. Alright, it's confirmed. 3I Atlas accelerates. That acceleration can't be justified by the gravitational pull of the sun, and besides, it changed color and trajectory. Do you want to know more? Stay with me and you'll learn the latest information and theory about this gigantic interstellar object that's approaching us right now. And don't even think about missing the ending. Why am I the documentalist? And this is Chaos at National Aeronautics and Space Administration. 3I Atlas Accelero. First, this is what you absolutely need to know about 3I Atlas. Since it was discovered in July 2025, it set off alarms because its speed is way too high for something so gigantic. Yes, it's 5 to 6 kilometers in diameter and is estimated to weigh around 33 billion tons. It's been traveling from outside our solar system at approximately 221,000 kilometers per hour. Shrouded in a coma, a gas cloud obscures visibility. Share this video to make it worse. The combined data from James Webb, Hubble, and some ground-based observatories reveal a composition that doesn't match any known comet. It has almost no iron and contains high levels of nickel, materials that are very unlikely to combine naturally. Thank you. Also, just before it disappeared behind the sun, its reddish color turned green. The most rigid scientists said, well, it's not that unusual for that to happen. It must be due to the reaction of its components to the refraction of light. But when it came out of hiding, everyone's jaw dropped to the floor. Because, defying everything known in science so far, Tracy Atlas emerged from behind the sun, shining sky blue. And is the probability of this happening lower than your chances of winning the grand prize in the lottery? Twice in a row? Ha 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 ha. But without even buying the ticket, yes, it's as unusual as winning twice in a row with winning tickets you just found lying on the street. Why do we say National Aeronautics and Space Administration is in chaos over this? Because they inexplicably fired 550 of their scientists 2 weeks ago, right when they were needed the most. But also, the department responsible for providing the images of Tress and Atlas after they emerged from behind the sun. Yes, the department responsible for giving us images of the most important astronomical event of the damn century decided to remain completely silent. An unheard of, absurd silence that worries everyone. That's right. The distant images of the comet that were shown were captured by observatories not affiliated with National Aeronautics and Space Administration. What the hell is going on? And to top it off, that thing changed its trajectory and apparently it accelerated toward us. And this was indeed confirmed by another department at National Aeronautics and Space Administration, but only after Harvard and all the major scientific entities in astronomy and astrophysics did so. That is to say, it's a fact, let me tell you. In their statements, they all said in more or less complex language the following. The Interstellar Object 3, an atlas, has puzzled astronomers by showing an acceleration that can't be explained by the sun's gravity alone. During its close pass by our star, the comet began to move faster than expected, suggesting the existence of non-gravitational forces acting on it. Scientists at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Jet Propulsion Laboratory suggest that the phenomenon could be due to the expulsion of gas and dust from the nucleus, a kind of explosions releasing materials trapped inside 3 and Atlas. A natural way to change its speed. Although they clarify again and again that the intensity of this behavior exceeds what has been observed in common comets. And they point out that the modification of its trajectory, although slight, is also not what would be expected and that it could be due to the same phenomenon. Basically, they say, even though that thing keeps showing signs that it's not something normal, we refuse to be alarmed because it will pass far away. And so the question arises, what will happen if this December 19th, when its trajectory passes by the closest point to our planet, we see for sure that it wasn't a comet, but an interstellar ship? Or even worse, what would happen if 3 and Atlas also see us and send signals or change course? Alright, these new anomalies are generating bolder theories. The astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who was the first to report that 3 and Atlas are emitting a pure nickel alloy without iron. As we already said, a material common in engineering but unusual in natural bodies. And also the first to measure and observe that it presents an anti-tail comet. That is, a jet of particles oriented toward the sun instead of away from it. Both phenomena challenge traditional explanations and suggest that the object could possess a completely unknown structure or internal mechanism. Avi Loeb himself once again proposed that National Aeronautics and Space Administration and the rest of the scientific communities should be more skeptical of their rigid assumptions and prepare themselves. Although he warned that it is very unlikely to change its course again and become potentially dangerous. That slight possibility cannot be taken lightly, because the consequences would be devastating. And to top it off, Elon Musk, owner of SpaceX, as if there weren't already enough personalities who have joined this. He sparked controversy by warning that the interstellar object 3 and Atlas could wipe out a continent. Haha. Yes, if it were to hit the Earth. During an interview, Elon Musk discussed the possible consequences of a collision with this cosmic object, which recently passed about 210 million kilometers from the Sun. According to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Although he clarified that the risk is remote, he explained that an object 5 to 6 kilometers in diameter, as is estimated for 3Y Atlas, would have enough energy to cause continental or even global devastation. Elon Musk also mentioned that Earth has suffered multiple impacts throughout its history, some of which could have destroyed entire regions without leaving traces of mass extinction. The comet will pass about 270 million kilometers away in December 2025. So far, there is no risk of collision. Its approach will unveil the mystery, and if we are in the presence of an alien ship of that magnitude, it's almost certain that it will detect our presence. And well, for these cases, we already have the historic warning from Stephen Hawking, who warned that contact with advanced civilizations could be as disastrous as Columbus's arrival in America. For the indigenous peoples, however, the question still lingers in the air. Why do you think National Aeronautics and Space Administration silenced its scientists and hasn't released the images of the supposed comet? What have they found? Let's remember that in his article, Avi Loeb suggests that 3 and Atlas could be an intelligent and hostile transport object. It could be designed to emit heat or electromagnetic signals, radios, microwaves, or others, as a form of communication with us or for signaling or linking with a more distant mothership. And to find out if it's a ship, did we need to wait for 3 and Atlas to emerge from behind the Sun so that we could observe some of these two characteristics? The first is to verify non-gravitational maneuvers like acceleration, and this has already been confirmed by everyone. And the second is to detect artificial emissions. And precisely National Aeronautics and Space Administration is the one carrying out these measurements at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. They coordinate spectroscopic studies and radiation using space telescopes like the Hubble and the James Webb Space Telescope. However, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, immersed in chaos, maintains a terrifying silence. On this channel, you'll just see scientific arguments over calculations and egos. No. So I'm sorry to inform you that to make matters worse, the Centers for Advanced Studies in Parapsychology and Occult Arts suggest, by recording testimonial evidence, that here on Earth, dreams about extraterrestrial contacts keep multiplying. Psychics organize gatherings to try to perceive the energies coming from Tress and Atlas and determine if it's an alien spacecraft, and furthermore what their intentions are. The Vatican still remains silent. It's no wonder. Science has determined, based on its trajectory, that Tress and Atlas come from the center of the galaxy, and that if it were a comet, it would be 10 billion years old. Considering that our solar system is only 4.6 billion years old. That is to say, the Vatican knows very well that it must explain the genesis of the Bible once again. Because it says there that when God created the earth and the heavens on the first day, well, Tress and Atlas had already been traveling through space for 5.4 billion years. However, there are quite a few voices among the custodians of the Vatican archives who point out the strange coincidence with the visions of Catholic mystics that have been repeated over and over again from the 12th century to the present. And when reporting these visions, they go on always writing the same brief and desolate words. A comet will be seen, it will change, and then it will be punishment. Let me know in the comments what you think about 3 and Atlas. We will know the truth soon. And remember, the great discoveries of humanity were not made with closed opinions and rigid theories, but with deep doubts. To the right questions. I am El Documentalista. And this was Chaos at National Aeronautics and Space Administration. 3 and Atlas. He accelerated. If you've made it this far, it means you liked the video. And not only that, but you're also a true fan of this channel. If that's the case, leave me a comment with the hashtag 3 and Atlas. That way, I'll know who among you are true fans. You're my true followers. Thank you and see you next time.